This is bulk powder, our second classification of powder. Bulk powder for external use, that is used by externally, right? In which also there is a non it contain the non-potent substance as like our first classification, but it is generally applied on externally, right? Then non-potent drugs are usually also used externally in bulk powder form. This kind of powder are delivered in cardboard, glass or plastic container, right? Cardboard, glass or plastic container. The dusting powder are suitable in shifter container, and container should bear a label with a instruction like meant for external use, right? So bulk powder for external use, that is also contain the, this is the mixing of non-potent substance, either one or two, right? And applied externally, right? And this kind of powder deliver in cardboard, glass or plastic container, right? The dusting powder are supplied in a shifter container, and container should bear a label with a instruction like meant for external use, right? Means this kind of powder, like our medicated powder, that is a dusting powder, which is used फॉर एक्सटर्नली, दैट इज़ ऑल्सो काइंड ऑफ बल्क पाउडर. आप लोगों ने डस्टिंग पाउडर देखे होंगे कोट्राइमैक्सोजोल का, जो फंगल इन्फेक्शन के लिए यूज़ करते हैं. तो उसका एक प्लास्टिक कंटेनर देखोगे, प्लास्टिक कंटेनर में आता है, और उससे उस कंटेनर में उसका जो एक माउथ रहता है, वाइड माउथ ही रहता है उसमें, और उसमें शिफ्टर लगा के रहता है, जिससे हम ऑन ऑफ वगैरह कर सकते हैं, शिफ्ट कर सकते हैं, ठीक है. और रिक्वायर्ड अमाउंट ऑफ जो मेडिसिन है या फिर पाउडर है उसे अप्लाई कर सकते हैं एक्सटर्नली, राइट. सो दिस काइंड ऑफ पाउडर, दैट इज डस्टिंग. फॉर एग्जाम्पल डस्टिंग पाउडर इन सफलेशन स्नफ्स, देन डेंटिफ्राइसिस, देन आप लोगों ने टूथ पाउडर का जो कंटेनर वगैरह देखे होंगे, इधर प्लास्टिक का रहता है या फिर ग्लास कंटेनर का रहता है, ठीक है. देन डस्टिंग पाउडर, स्नफ्स वगैरह जो है, ये सब जो एग्जाम्पल है, ये डोजेस फॉर्म में जो बल्क पाउडर फॉर्म में डिस्पेंस किया जाता है फॉर एक्सटर्नल यूज़. डस्टिंग पाउडर जो है एक्सटर्नली अप्लाइड करते हैं, देन डेंटिफ्राइसिस भी जो है एक्सटर्नली हम लोग यूज़ करते हैं, राइट. सो दिस इज़ दी बल्क पाउडर फॉर एक्सटर्नल यूज़, right. The best example of bulk powder for external use, that is dusting powder, insufflations, snuffs and dentifrices, right. This example we will discuss in detail, right. So let's see. Start with the dusting powder. So dusting powder, these powder are applied externally on the skin and contain a very fine particle to avoid the local irritation, right. Dusting powder, as I said, that is applied on externally, right, on the surface of skin. मतलब टॉपिकली जो हमारे स्किन है उस पर हम लोग क्या करते हैं, उसे अप्लाई करते हैं, ठीक है. एंड दैट डस्टिंग पाउडर कंटेन अ वेरी फाइन पार्टिकल्स, right. Means the dusting powder has a lesser particle size. The particle size of dusting powder is very less, right. That's why because of that less particle size or fine particle, that's why we can't feel the any irritations. We can't feel the any irritation, that is लोकल इरिटेशन. मीन्स हम लोग लोकली एक स्पेसिफिक जगह पे यूज़ करते हैं, इसकी वजह से उससे लोकल बोला गया है, दैट इज इट अवॉइड द लोकल इरिटेशन ड्यू टू very fine particle size, right. Then fine particle size obtained by passing through sieve number 80 to enhance their effectiveness. Means dusting powder has a very fine particles, and that fine particle obtained by passing the powder through the sieve number 80, ठीक है. मतलब जो डस्टिंग पाउडर होता है प्रिपरेशन करने के वक्त या फिर प्रिपेयर करने के वक्त जो इंग्रेडिएंट होते हैं उससे क्या किया जाता है, पास किया जाता है. आफ्टर द मिक्सिंग उसे क्या किया जाता है, पास किया जाता है sieve नंबर 80 से, दैट इज sieve नंबर 80 इज़ अ वेरी फाइन sieve, राइट. sieve नंबर 80 से पास करने के बाद क्या होता है, हमें फाइन पार्टिकल्स हमें ऑब्टेन हो जाते हैं, ठीक है. एंड दैट फाइन पार्टिकल्स रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर producing the effective great effect or desired effect, right, or also increase the effectiveness of dusting powder. The dusting powder get easily contaminated with pathogenic microbes, thus must be sterilized by dry heat method, that is on the 160 degrees centigrade for 2 hours before their use, right. So there is a one complication which is arising during the preparation of dusting powder, right. So this sentence says that the dusting powder are get easily contaminated with pathogenic microorganism, right? In our environment various kind of microorganisms are present, that's why there is a chances of contamination of dusting powder. So to prevent this kind of contaminations by pathogenic microbes, we need to sterilize that particular dosage form, right? For the dusting powder for the dusting powder for the dusting powder, because of the contamination reason, we should sterilize it, right? And the sterilization of dusting powder do by the dry heat method, right? This is the one kind of method of sterilization, that is dry heat method. By this method dusting powder are sterilized, right? In which 160 degree centigrade are provided, right, for 2 hours, right? This is the sterilization method of dusting powder, and this is the temperature and time, that is 160 degrees centigrade for 2 hours before their use. Then it is a non-toxic, but if infants inhale it may chances of pulmonary inflammation, hence proper care should taken during handling. That is, there is one instruction regarding the handling of dusting powder, that is, it says the dusting powder are not toxic, right? Sometimes that is a non-toxic, but if in case of infants inhale it, that time there may chances of happening the pulmonary infections to the infants, right? Means there is chances of happening pulmonary infection or causing pulmonary infection, that is pulmonary means relating to our lungs, right? Relating to our lungs, there is chances of happening a lung infection if the infants inhale the dusting powder. Actually it is not toxic, but if in a infants inhale it, that time the chances of causing the pulmonary infections. That's why there is one advice, that is the during the handling of dusting powder proper care should be taken, right? Then dusting powder used for their antiseptic, astringent and absorbent, antiperspirant and antipruritic action, right? This is the action, that is a these are the actions which are given by the dusting powder, right? Dusting powder used as a the dusting powder are used for their antiseptic, astringent, then adsorbent, antiperspirant and antipruritics action, right? Means dusting powder are shows these kind of pharmacological actions, right? Antiseptic, you not that you know that the meaning of antiseptic, that is prevent the growth of microorganism, right? Astringent, right, which are responsible for stopping the blood, right, if you have any cut. Then absorbent, that is for the soaking of liquids. Then antiperspirant, that is prevent the sweating, right? And antipruritic, that is antipruritic action means that is treat the itching. If you feel the itching, that's time you can use the antipruritic action dusting powder, right? So these are the pharmacological action which are shown by the dusting powder, right? So then types of dusting powder, there is a two kind of type dusting powder are available, that is medicated, one is medicated dusting powder and second is surgical dusting powder. Two kind of dusting powder are available here, right? So first is medicated, I said medicated dusting powder, that is are used for these surgical skin conditions, right? Sorry, superficial, not a surgical, that is a superficial skin conditions, mean if anyone or someone has a skin condition or skin infection, skin related infection, that is superficial, that is the skin condition which is occur on the surface of skin, that's why it's called as a superficial skin conditions, right? In case of superficial skin condition, that time this medicated dusting powder are preferred, right? Then it is a free from pathogenic microorganism, right? We already studied it, that is it is the dusting powder are totally sterilized, okay? Means medicated dusting powder also free from the pathogenic microorganism, right? Then surgical dusting powder, this is the second type of dusting powder, that is are used in the body cavities, right? Are used in the body cavities and major wound like a burn or umbilical cord of infants, right? Means surgical dusting powder, if anyone get a infection in their cavities, right, in their cavities, right, like nose, ear, right, then vagina, right, these are the cavities, right. That time the for the treatment of infection of body cavities, that time this doctor prescribed the dusting powder, that is a surgical type of dusting powder, right. Also it is used on the wound. If someone has a wound, that time also surgical dusting powder prescribed. Also in case of umbilical cord, right, in case of burn burn and umbilical cord, after the birth of the baby, that time there is a cutting of umbilical cord, that time for the treating that infection of umbilical cord, that time also surgical dusting powder are used, right. Then surgical dusting powder also sterile product, right. This is the all kind of dusting powder, that is surgical and medicated, okay. Then our third classification of dusting powder, that is third class of classification of powder, that is simple and compound powder for internal use. Simple and compound powder for internal use. In this, each single dose enclosed in paper, right, means simple and compound powder are enclosed in paper, individually enclosed in the paper, right, single dose enclosed in the paper. Minimum quantity of this powder should not be less than 100 mg, so that it can be handled easily by patient. Means simple powder and compound powder, the dose of simple powder and compound powder is between 100 mg, not lesser than that. That's why the patient can easily handle the simple and compound powder, right. Then simple powder, there is a meaning, only contain one ingredient, either crystalline or amorphous form, right. Means simple powder are those kind of powder which contain only one or single kind of ingredient, right, that is made up of only single kind of ingredient, whether it is that ingredient, whether it is crystalline or amorphous, right. You know the meaning of crystalline and amorphous, okay. Then in case of crystalline powder, it particle size reduced, weigh and divided into number of dose and wrapped as a individual dose. If suppose the our simple powder is contain a crystalline ingredient, crystalline form of ingredient, that time there is a need to reduction of particle size by adopting this some trituration method, right. Trituration method gives the mixing as well as reduction of particle size, right. And that after reduction the particle size, that weigh and divided into number of dose, weigh and divided into number of dose, that is 1 mg 2 mg regarding the requirement, right. And wrapped into a individual dose and packed with the individual dose, right. Then compound powder contain two or more than two ingredient. In simple powder there is only one ingredient, but in case of compound powder there is it contain the two or more than two ingredients, right. Maximum two ingredients are contained, right, are mixed together and divided into individual dose and packed with a powder paper, right. This compound powder contain more than two ingredient and mixed properly by using various any of method of powder mixing, and that after mixing that divided into individual dose and packed with the powder paper, right. So there is a difference between, only there is a simple difference between compound and simple powder, that is one ingredient present in simple powder and two or more than two ingredient present in compound powder, right. Then powder enclosed in sachet, powder enclosed in sachet, this is our fourth number of classification of powder, right. Powder enclosed in sachet and capsule, and capsule, this is our fourth classification of powder, right. So let's see. Sachet are solid unit dosage form of drug made up of rice paper and also called as wafer capsule, right, also called as wafer capsule. The sachet is a nothing but a one kind of uh,